Well, it is so nice to see you all this morning. How's everybody doing? Buenos dias. My name is Patrick Robles, and I am the tremendously proud student body president of Sunnyside High School. I am a student activist, and for those of you who've been around since 2015, I don't mean to make you feel old, but I am also a senior here at Sunnyside. I did a lot of thinking this summer. Yes, I do think. And here's one thought that I wanted to share with you all. Throughout my academic career in this marvelous school district, I've come to the conclusion that in every student is a reservoir of goodness. Within that reservoir is an urge to achieve our dreams and to knowingly and unknowingly positively contribute to a greater world. And in each and every one of us here, we can unleash that reservoir through the empowerment of our students. I'm about to tell you what we already know. And what we know is that we have some of the greatest school bus drivers, secretaries, classified staff, nurses, technology instructors, custodians, teachers, security monitors, counselors, administrators, and board members. And no matter the position, we are all capable of empowering our students and each other. Right now, in this area, you're about to witness a few student leaders here in Sunnyside. And let me tell you, we have to build, and build our students. It can't stop with me. We can't stop here. I was just a student who was inspired by a teacher or teachers, and some of them are here today. We have Miss Sue Lada here at Sunnyside. Let's give her a round of applause. We got Miss Ramirez. She works in the student relations office here at Sunnyside. And here I am now. We have to continue to instill that motivation through inspiration. How can we do that? Through collaboration. The answer to make that happen is in this room, and that answer is you. You have the ability to continue and contribute to the greatness that this district can create. Believe in yourselves. Believe in your greatness. You were chosen as an educator in this district for a reason. 2018 was the end of my junior year and will be the beginning of my senior year. And let me tell you, and I believe you know, this year was a crazy year. This year continues to be a year where we will stand up for what is right. Mr. Holmes has always expressed gratitude towards the principle of student agency. And now it's kind of rubbed off on me. But for what most of you did this year in the Red for Red movement is what you showed us, students, what it means to take initiative. You showed us what it means to get involved and to stand up for what you believe in. That, in my opinion, is the absolute definition of student agency. And that is an example our students can follow in order to positively contribute to our world. And we all know this movement is not yet over. But for now, let's prove them. Let's make that impact. Let's build our test scores. Let's challenge the mediocrity, and let's take those chances. Let's put in the extra time. And whether you like it or not, we are a team. Let's contribute to this team. We fall together, we win together, and we support each other, and we will succeed together for our students. My family has been in this school district since the early 60s. I'm a third-generation Blue Devil. And over time, this community has increasingly grown diverse. We have students who are of different documentation statuses, genders, cultures, sexual orientations, religions, races. We have students from poverty, broken homes, and blessed homes. And despite the labels, these are my colleagues. These are my friends. These are people walking our halls without us even knowing, because at the end of the day, we are just students. We are students waiting for you to believe in us. Thank you very much, everybody. It's been a pleasure addressing you all these past 4 years. And it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Guillermo Duarte, the student body president of Desert View High School.
Good morning, teachers, staff, and proud members of the Sunnyside community. I'd like to start off by saying that being able to speak as well as dance in front of such an inspirational group of individuals is truly an amazing experience. Looking into the crowd, I noticed that many of you have served as my foundation in starting the district I have called home for a vast majority of my life. And to that, I am forever grateful. On the topic of teachers as a whole, I'm certain that all of you have traversed through trails that you haven't encountered before, especially in the last few months. Regardless of the outcomes that resulted from these trails, I'd like to speak on behalf of the many scholars throughout the district that you all are appreciated, that you all are supported, and most importantly, that you all are endeared and look up to. I can only imagine the immense amount of stress, time, effort, trial, and error planning lessons and transferring knowledge exhibits, but the perseverance and passion that you all display while you teach is truly inspiring and invigorating. It is for this reason I have come to admire the mentors who I was under the tutelage of. It truly is a privilege to be learning from you all. I cannot stress enough just how vital you all are in today's society, and just how many lives you have impacted and will continue to impact throughout time. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you all. Scholars, thank you all. And the district thanks you all for everything you all have achieved, for the endless amount of people you have inspired, and for just being downright amazing, just to say the least. Thank you.
Hi, so my name is Clara Lopez. I go to STAR. Unlike Guillermo and Patrick, I was not smart enough to write a speech. So, before I went to STAR, I went to Desert View. And like I said, I'm a senior. I plan on graduating in December. So my time at STAR has been the greatest. I have improved so much socially, as a person, and academically, which is more than I could ever ask for. It's been a great time. I look very much forward to coming back the next school year that's coming up. Aside from that, I am also Native American, and I'm not going to give any shout-outs because I don't know everybody's name. Same with my school. So I would just like to thank everybody that works with the Native American program. I am TO myself. They do so much for us throughout, from elementary schools to even high schools, and even beyond that, they help us. And I'm very thankful again. Thank you guys for everything you do. And thank you to all the Sunnyside staff and faculty members, everybody that is part of this great district, in my opinion, the best. I've gone around to a couple schools. This has been my favorite school and my favorite district. Above that, and on behalf of my school, STAR, I'm not going to name anybody because, again, I don't want to name everybody and I don't know everyone's names. So on behalf of my school, STAR, and on behalf of Sunnyside, we appreciate and thank you to every single one of you for everything you do, from staying after school, coming in early, and helping everybody with everything you do. Thank you all so much. That is it, because I don't know what else to say. So I would like to... I would like to welcome our SEA, Mary Martinez. Thank you so much for coming.
I just wanted to take an opportunity to welcome everybody, back to a new school year, welcome our new employees to the Sunnyside family, and just talk a little bit, but if you know me, a little bit turns into a lot. But talk a little bit about what's already been said, a little bit about the Red for Ed movement, and just how proud I am, not only to be your Sunnyside EA president, but to be an educator in the Sunnyside district. We did so much for public education in this movement. We stood up, we said no more, enough is enough. Our students matter, our educators matter, and public education needs to be a priority in Arizona. And just like Patrick said, we all need to get out and vote. So register to vote. If you're not registered, get to the polls, do early ballots, whatever you have to do, but vote for people who are pro-public education so that our system can get better, so that we can get funding for our students, we can get funding for our educators, and we can get funding for the whole public education, as a whole. Okay, the other thing that I learned from the movement was how if we all unify, if we all get together for the same cause, which is our students, our children, not only the future of Arizona, but the present, because we are here now, okay, that we can do anything that we put our mind to do. We built relationships not only with each other in our schools, in our sites, but across the district. We built relationships from state to state. We even built relationships around the world. Everybody saw the 50,000 plus people march down the street in 100-degree temperature in Phoenix, Arizona. And if you were there, oh my gosh, was that amazing to know that you were one of those little red spots. You can't find yourself sometimes, but you were one of those little spots that probably has never occurred in the state of Arizona, ever. And we led the way for North Carolina. And it meant so much to actually get a phone call from one of the presidents from one of the associations in North Carolina saying thank you to Arizona, saying, you know what, we can do this too. And then they went at it too. They went to the state capitol, they shut down districts, they shut down state, and they also fought for what was right for their students. So I am honored to be the president of SEA, but more than anything, I am honored to be a teacher in the Sunnyside School District. So continue to build those relationships with each other across schools. Continue to support each other. We have so many new employees. We have newer teachers and educators. We need to be there for every single person because we are here for our kids, and the more retention we have our employees, the better we're going to be at our work. So let's go out there, let's do the best job that we can, and let's make this the best year in Sunnyside that we've ever had. Thank you.
I'm convinced we have the greatest group of students in any district, and I think that's what the work is before us today, to inspire you for a brand new year, to get the work going, and to bring a little bit more clarity to what it is we're going to be doing this year. If you see the backdrop on this picture, what is this? LA, 1968, Los Angeles walkouts, groups of students, Mexican-American students, Chicanos who were upset with the quality of education they were receiving, decided it was time to take some action, make a difference, and walk out of school. Interesting enough, that those particular points in time, you had a number of issues facing us 50 years ago today. Those issues, specifically, civil rights, gender equality, Vietnam War, and the student movements. 50 years ago. Moving forward, here we are 50 years later, and you see a large group of students and folks taking active action against issues that are important to them as well. interesting and ironic parallel as I look at the issues facing our nation today. So issues of immigration and race, sexual harassment, international relationship issues, and student voice, and you parallel that with the previous slides, one can say not much has changed. The reality, though, of all this work, and as we think of ourselves as great Americans, we knew that in 1968 we had great people and they gave us great hope. Great hope that we as a nation could come together and settle our differences and get through these crazy years that challenge us as people. I'm here to propose that the hope that I see in this new era of challenges are folks like these. Anthony and valedictorian and salutatorian of last year from Desert View, Anthony and Mohammed. Two students from very different backgrounds and cultures working together for a common cause, getting education in a community that really embraces them. These are the leaders that I have hope about. These are the leaders that are gonna make sure our nation gets through these trying times. Students like Jordan, Emilio, and Doreen from Sunnyside High School. Valedictorian and two salutatorians from the previous year, all coming from very different backgrounds. I think Doreen's from Lebanese, you have Laotian, and of course from Mexico background that actually demonstrates that Sunnyside is a diverse community where students from different backgrounds can not only be successful, but continue to work together to ensure that we have a successful life in the work that we're doing. This is the work that's ahead of us. Because the reality, as we look at our nation and the challenges are before us, the reality is that improving our educational system is one of the principal vehicles of achieving social justice. It's not just the activism that's important as people kind of share their vision of what that looks like. It doesn't necessarily mean marching the streets. For me, it means really taking an active role on challenging inequities across our country and, more importantly, across our city and state. But to be able to do that well and not look like just people who are angry, we need to educate our youth. And I look at Guillermo and Patrick and Clara. These are people that can articulate their thoughts and debate the very best of the best around issues that matter to them. That's why it's equally important for me to make sure we're ensuring that our school system is providing that type of education, and I believe we're getting there. As I mentioned in the video, this is one of the primary reasons why we've reversioned our vision statement to add this idea of being community ready. Because it's not just about our students going out into the workforce and being successful on their own, it's about what skills and knowledge that we teach them to be able to navigate the complexity of life. The complexity of this world that's challenged with division, the complexity of issues that continue to surface even 50 years later. And so what's important for us to kind of remember as we reflect upon this idea of community ready is the idea is really about cultivating a sense of purpose, belonging, and agency. I know you hear me use this term a lot, agency, and it's become kind of this kind of almost rhetorical in a many sense. I got to bring it back to the context of the why. And the context of the why for us in this vision statement of our community is this idea of purpose, belonging, and agency. And as you look at our legacy and our vision for our legacy, it's about getting our students to leave as effective learners and ethical people who act with purpose to achieve the conditions they desire in their own and others' lives. That's why we're here. This is why we exist. Not just get A's and B's and getting kids into college and getting to good jobs. It's about our students leaving here and us instilling a sense of purpose. And that's why all of you as educators are important in the organization no matter what role you play. I use this imagery of the desert as a metaphor for, I think, how districts like ours are portrayed, particularly as we look at a community in high poverty. Because many people who don't live in the desert see the desert as desolated land. And I challenged us last year to think of the desert as just a beautiful place with a great number of things happening that if people don't take notice, then they're being ignorant to what's out there. And that's the way I feel about our community. I think there's great things happening each every day, and our job is to make sure people take notice. I challenge us to think about our work in learning and teaching about this ecological system. And the reason why that idea resonates with me in particular, because the work is complex. It's not one-dimensional. It's not a set of inputs and outputs that's going to get us to do the work. It's complicated work because every child comes with a different set of expectations, different sets of assets that come in. And as we're going through this important work of teaching and learning and supporting, we have to learn how to navigate the 150 kids that we serve each and every day. And that's not lost on me, but at the same time, I don't want to oversimplify the work. I want to make sure that we think about our ecosystem in the same way that we look at everything else as we study scientifically, because education is complex. And so this year, in particular, I want to take that theme of this ecology to really plant a seed specifically about this learning ecology that our students experience in our system pre-K-12. And I've actually refined this to be this and defined it to be this process of relationships, interactions, and activities that impact learning, development, and achievement. And everyone plays a role in our students' learning ecology and how they develop over the course of their experience here with us until they cross that stage, right? The people they interact with every day, people in the cafeteria, our monitors, our support staff, our teachers, our principals, our librarians, everyone who specifically is working with our students is part of the development of every child's individual learning ecology. And as complicated as that sounds, I want us to ground the work back to this idea of community ready. Because if we don't recognize that what we do every day has an impact on how the journey of learning happens for students, look at Clara. Our system failed Clara at one point, is why she ended up at our Star Academic Center. And it was by circumstances of the student advisory through her principal that they recognized the gifts that Clara had. To come out here on the stage, to be part of a leadership group, because she matters. And it's that learning ecology that may not be one-dimensional, that a student goes through our school system is a high achiever in student council, ends up being the student body president and works directly with us. She's a perfect example of this learning ecology and the complexity of the word that recognizes that every student matters and every student is capable of making a big difference. And so as we think about that, what's the roadmap that really helps us better define this learning ecology? And so we've taken a second attempt to look at our graduate profile. Now, we have a graduate profile right now. I know everyone's like, where is it? Graduate profile sits buried in our strategic plan that was rolled out about 4 years ago. And it's an important part of our strategic plan, but it has been something that we haven't kept an eye on and something that's very critical to defining what we really want students to leave and be prepared to do. And so we've pulled it back out, brought some educators and business people and people in our community together to really reversion this profile of a graduate. And I think for me, it's best summed up on this experience of a learning ecology in these 3 words: learn, develop, become. Right? This idea that this experience is about learning and developing and becoming something great. And let me take a little bit deeper dive in this in terms of the competencies that we've defined specifically in our graduate profile. I'll start with competency number 1. Knowledge for learning. Rather than kind of speak to this, let me show you a clip that I think best represents this idea of knowledge for learning as a competency that we want all our students to acquire.
You're late.
You didn't answer the door.
That's because you're late. Come in. Come, come, come. So, you want to learn how to spell?
I know how to spell.
Spell Staphylococci.
S-T-A-F.
There is no F. It's derived from the Greek, so there can't be an F. Staphylococci. Staphylococci. Winning word, National Spelling Bee, 1987. The first thing most serious spellers do is learn all of the winning words and their origins.
Well, maybe I ain't that serious.
Maybe neither am I.
So why you home during the day? Ain't you got a job?
Do me a favor. Leave the ghetto talk outside, all right?
Ghetto talk? I don't talk ghetto.
Ain't you got no job? You use that language to fit in with your friends. Here, you will speak properly or you won't speak at all. Understood?
Yeah. Whatever.
You can leave now.
Excuse me?
I said you can leave.
How come?
Because I don't have time to waste on insolent little girls.
Insolent? I ain't I'm not insolent. It's just the first thing you do is start dogging on, criticizing the way I speak. I thought this was just about spelling words. Well, then fine. You know what? When I put my mind to it, I can memorize anything. And I don't need help from a dictatorial, truculent, supercilious gardener. I'm sorry to be so insolent.
So that idea of knowledge for learning, I think, was somewhat captured in that, because I think it's a broader subset of discussion that we want to have to continue to have. But it wasn't just about learning to spell. This experience that was being had by Keila and the teacher was more than just spelling, which is what we do each and every day. So when I'm thinking about knowledge for learning, it's more than just the content that we're providing for students, but it's really the everyday application and what it means in the bigger picture of life. The second competency is this idea of knowledge for impact. And as we think about impact and we talk about this journey, the clip that came to mind for me was this clip from Erin Brockovich.
Those are my files. Yeah, we had them couriered over. And listen, good work. They're a great start. We're just going to have to spend a little time filling in the holes in your research.
Excuse me, Teresa, is it? There are no holes in my research.
No offense. They're just some things we need that you probably didn't know to ask.
Don't talk to me like I'm an idiot, okay? I may not have a law degree, but I've spent 18 months on this case, and I know more about these plaintiffs than you ever will.
Erin, you don't even have phone numbers for some of them.
Whose number do you need?
Everyone's. This is a lawsuit. We need to be able to contact the plaintiffs.
I said, whose number do you need?
You don't know 600 plaintiffs' numbers by heart. Annabelle Daniels.
Annabelle Daniels, 714-454-9346. 10 years old, 11 in May, lived on the Plume since birth. Wanted to be a synchronized swimmer, so she spent every minute she could in the PG&E pool. She had a tumor in her brainstem detected last November. An operation on Thanksgiving shrunk it with radiation after that. Her parents are Ted and Rita. Ted's got Crohn's disease. Rita has chronic headaches and nausea and underwent a hysterectomy last fall. Ted grew up in Hinckley. His brother Robbie and his wife May and their 5 children, Robbie Jr., Martha, Ed, Rose, and Peter, also lived on the Plume. Their number is 454-9554. You want their diseases?
Okay, look, I think we got off on the wrong foot here.
That's all you got, lady. Two wrong.
Had to cut that last thing about her shoes out. If you read the movie, that's inappropriate. So we're not talking about shoes right now. Educational setting, guys. We gotta know where you're at. And I use the Erin Brockovich case because here's a lady who did not have a legal formal education, but had a lot of information about her community, was a clerk, knew about the information, was able to make a great impact in her community, and didn't go to law school. Right? We have many kids who take different pathways, but their knowledge is deep. And how they make an impact, regardless of whether they attend a four-year institution or not, I think it's what's important. And this case is near and dear to me personally, and I think for many of us in our community and those that are new, is that our community was the largest class action suit that was resolved around water contamination prior to the Erin Brockovich case. And it's something that's really unique, that if you're new here, that I challenge you to learn more about, because it does define a little bit more about why knowledge for impact is important, particularly in communities like ours. The next competency is this idea of creative confidence, because we want to value creativity as an organization, not just knowledge that's represented in the books we read, but there's a lot of creativity. This is why we continue to support all of our fine arts programs, our sports programs, things that actually move beyond what happens each and every day in the classroom. Here's a perfect example of creative confidence in action.
Hey, we all know there's a lot of cholo workout videos out there, but this one is gonna have you like, damn, homie, that's what's up. The first one we're gonna get started with is cholo squats, eh? You go like this, you go left foot, pointing forward like this, right foot, pointing to the right in that direction. Feel how down you are for your homies. And then we're literally gonna take it down, okay? Squat down, bend the knees, keep your back straight, hands on the knees, chin up, feel the power, eh? Now we bring it back up.
All the homies, they know what I mean. Baby, let me show you how I lead like a troll. Lay back, bounce in the club. When we do a dance, and we do it like what? Like a troll. I'm round, I get down. The girls love how I lean. Like a G to the B. You and YMJ's on my feet. Let me do my dance, you do yours. Show you what you got till you sweating at your pores. Hey DJ, won't you play that same track? Run it back, I can lean to that. Now she wants me, and I ain't going home solo, cause I lean like a cholo.
Side to side, elbows on top, side to side, elbows up, side to side, elbows on top, side to side.
I lean like a cholo.
So whether you like hip hop or cholos, or if you're a cholo whisperer or anything like that, no, that's not the point. I think the point is we have a Sunnyside Desert View grad, right, who's out there doing great things, competing, has a creative confidence to do great work. I have to give a shout out to Katrina, who's a Sunnyside graduate, who's done all the videography that you see that's in there, is actually one of our very own Blue Devils. Katrina, so why don't you stand, just give a, she doesn't want to move. So we can't see creativity separate from our work. For some of us, it is our work. And how we work may be through a creative lens. And so we want to make sure that that becomes a part of how we think about products that students produce, how we value what happens in our classrooms every day, and make sure that the creative confidence of our students continues to be developed and enhanced and not kind of killed off of them. The other competency here is this idea of critical consciousness. Now, you can go deep into the Paulo Freire and the work that he did, but for me, it's really much more simple. It's the idea that students leave with us understanding the worlds and the constructs that create inequities of oppression across either systems or nations, understand it deeply enough to take action when necessary. And when I think you think you see a lot about activism. You know, and for me, it's not about activism. Activism is something you do if you're passionate about it. But being action-oriented means no matter what role you play in a system, you're making a difference and you're calling out inequities and injustice. That's what this is about, not about marching in the streets. Although if that's something people are passionate about, I support whatever they feel they need to do. But the reality is we're about creating people that are going to take action. And students are going to look at things that are not right and do something about it. That's what critical consciousness is all about. And here's kind of what can happen if we don't believe that this is an important part of what we do in education.
Have you ever seen a physical book before? Do you want to know what's inside? Insanity. Chaos.
By the time you guys grow up, there won't be one book left.
Little knowledge is a dangerous thing. News, facts, memoirs, internetable. Burn it. We are not born equal, so we must be made equal by the fire. I want to burn.
Did you guys read that book? Great book of dystopian societies that, show, I believe, the extreme of what can happen if we keep folks ignorant, right? This idea of burning books and doing these things. And I purposely went to the exaggerated part of this in this particular competency because I think it's important to realize that it just takes one generation of not educating our students to get to a point where we just have people that kind of just go do their work, go make the donuts, right? That's an old saying, right? And you guys are knowing it. It was like the whole thing. I'll just go into. I won't get into it. But you think of Guy Montag, right, in the scene. I actually like the previous movie better, but it's kind of a little bit more slower. It's not all these kind of all you guys that want all these action-filled adventures. But I think it represents the idea of critical consciousness, the idea that you think more clearly about these things that are happening that are wrong, right? And how do you go ahead and change that is what we want to instill in our students as well. Then our last competency, which I believe is probably the most important, is self and social awareness. Because if students aren't comfortable about who they are and the place they have in this world, and more importantly, kind of what they're going to give to the world, is I think we failed. I think we have to make sure our students have a good sense of self-identity, and so that they feel confident, because confidence is a precursor to actually action and doing something about it and making some changes in your life. Here's a clip that for me represents kind of this idea of conflict within self-identity, but more importantly, kind of a good discussion that's alive and well in our community.
Dad, a gig in Monterrey, Mexico,
Dad, that would be so cool.
I'm not sure of that right now.
Come on, Dad.
Hey, Dad, you always said everything's a risk, right?
They don't accept us with it. They never have.
Hello, we're Mexican.
No, we are Mexican-American, and they don't like Mexican-American.
That's all I'm saying.
And they can be mean, and they can tear us apart over there. Selena's Spanish is...
What about my Spanish? I've been singing in Spanish for 10 years. It's perfect.
Singing, yes, but when you speak it a little funny. And down there, you gotta speak perfectly, or the press will eat you up and spit you out alive. I've seen them do it.
Overreacting as usual.
Dad, the music will speak for itself, Dad.
Listen, being Mexican-American is tough. Anglos jump all over you if you don't speak English perfectly. Mexicans jump all over you if you don't speak Spanish perfectly. We gotta be twice as perfect as anybody else. Why are you laughing? What's so funny?
Nothing.
I'm serious.
Our
family has been here for centuries, and yet they treat us as if we just swam across the Rio Grande. I mean, we gotta know about John Wayne and Pedro Infante. We gotta know about Frank Sinatra and Agustin Lara. We gotta know about Oprah and Christina. Anglo food is too bland, and yet when we go to Mexico, we get the runs. Now that, to me, is embarrassing.
No, Dad!
Japanese Americans, Italian Americans, German Americans, their homeland is on the other side of the ocean. Ours is right next door, right over there. And we gotta prove to the Mexicans how Mexican we are, and we gotta prove to the Americans how American we are. We gotta be more Mexican than the Mexicans and more American than the Americans, both at the same time. It's exhausting. Man, nobody knows how tough it is to be a Mexican American.
Well, Dad, you know, it's a good thing we have frijoles and tortillas to keep our strength up for the job.
Now you're making
No, I'm not. I'm menudo.
Hey, menudo, hey.
Menudo.
Now you're making me hungry.
Come on, Dad. I can do it. I know I can. Really.
Trust us.
Listen, guys, let's get through with the tour in California and then we'll talk about it.
You ready? Can you relate? Very much, I think, a clip that represents kind of the challenges that folks in our community have specifically. And it was Selena's creative confidence, right, that said, you know what, despite kind of those complications, I'm going to go out and do this, right, because she had a strong sense of who she was. So you see where we're going with this? I'm not asking us to kind of take on a new initiative and do all these other things. I just feel like we have to be much more intentional and purposeful of defining these competencies that define our students and tell a different story that's not just this AZ Merit score. Because we have great kids in our community, and many times what defines us as a community is one score. And I refuse to believe that represents who we are. Now, we have to do better. Yeah. I'm not discounting the importance of it because it's what it is, right? It's the external accountability that drives our work, and we have to continue to chase that and do better. But I want to continue to tell another narrative. And I believe this graduate profile will take us on a journey of defining a different narrative for our students that I think is really going to help us really feel better about the work that we're doing, right? As educators and people that contribute and may not be in the classrooms every day, you can start seeing yourself in this work much more clearly if we're part of this ecological learning journey, right, of learning, developing, and becoming. Because I believe wholeheartedly, you don't have to change the student population to get results. We just have to change the conditions in which they learn. And that's why we're here today. And that's why we're launching today, to begin to have some kind of purpose that goes beyond just going to work every day. It's about making sure that our community has the very best in front of them every day and that we're giving our very best. I spoke about 2 years about this butterfly effect, and those of you who weren't here, really that what you do each and every day matters. And you may not know it until later, but if we give our best every day, somehow it's going to come back. That's that whole idea of the butterfly effect that I want you to kind of think about what you do every day that matters. And I want you to be consequential. What do I mean by that? I mean, I want you to know that you make a difference, but I want you to create students who are consequential, that are going to do great things. I can tell you right now, I know our 3 students that came in before you in front of the stage are going to do great things, because they're doing great things now. But I want to make sure all of our students have that equal opportunity to do great things and be consequential. I will end with this clip because this is a person who I deeply admire, who 50 years ago, this is his speech from 1968, who was very consequential. And ironically, this is a speech that he gave the day before he was killed.
Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. And I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, But I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
It's always a difficult speech to hear because I think the irony of this statement, and the famous statement by Mark Twain, the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. There's no doubt, as you hear Dr. King give that speech, that he knew why he existed. Very clear. He was not fair in death. He knew why he was there. And he saw the vision in '68 of good things that were going to happen. And so I'm challenging us today that despite all the negativity that may be out there in division, to look beyond the mountaintop and think about all the great things that we can do in education to inspire our kids. And I challenge all of you to make sure you help each child find that second day.